Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Naman Pant, one of the volunteers from PSS in India, and I welcome all of you to PMC Globe. Yes, last week we started a book in the series called Books and Beyond, where we picked up a book by Ilchi. The title of the book was I've Decided to Live 120 Years. And we discussed what are the points in the first chapter, why Ilchi decided to live 120 years, why exactly 120 years, what's the relevance of living this long. Then we also shed some light in why we why the retirement age, what relevance is the retirement age, and when did it start. We learned that it started in Germany in 1880s, when they decided when the average life expectancy was 50 years, the age of retirement was 56. And over 150 years, we've seen that the age of retirement has little more or less been 156 years across the world, but the average lifespan has grown to 79 years. So today we are going to talk about the purpose of this life. And in last lecture, in last lecture, we also focused on an exercise where we questioned ourselves three different questions on how many years do I want to live? How many years do I have I left? Are there and what I'm going to do in those leftover years. So coming back to the point, today we are going to discuss about the purpose of living for 120 years. Because if you retire at 56 or 60, you have a healthy 50 years, which is approximately nearly half of your life. If you decide to live 120 years, if you decide to live even 100 years, it's still a healthy 40 years. So what are we going to do in those 40? What should we do in those 40 years? What's the relevance of the how important is your mind in taking you from your retirement age till the time of your death? And what's the first 60 years is all about? So today we are going to shed some light over there. So let's begin. So with an average life expectancy that has increased, and the birth rate has also increased, we are more capable of, infants nowadays are more capable of surviving than it was 100 years back. So I can safely assume that a lot of us will will reach a senior citizen age or an old age, because the life expectancy because of medicines and technologies has increased, and more number of infants are now surviving. So as I'm speaking, the average age lifespan is 79 years in US, and it's roughly 75 years across the world. And when you say that you will retire at 60, it's still a healthy 30 to 40 years that average people would survive. And if you look around, you will definitely easily find people who are 80 years or older, even 90 years or older. So in the last video, we had an activity where we asked ourselves all these questions. So today we are going to talk about what it actually means. So think for a movement. In old age, no one really tells senior citizen what to do. No one yells at them. No one, assumes that they don't know how to live their life. And imagine if we have so many people in the society who are going to that age and they live a purposeless life. They live from day to day. They live counting days. Imagine how much of a burden it is on someone's consciousness, and it's the burden is there in the society. Because after retirement, when you work from home, or you don't really have a purpose to do take care of the second half of your life, what will you end up doing? So there he said that Ilchi actually mentions that if we have a purposeful life where we have meaning to our days, when you get up, why do we get up? When we go to bed, Why do we want to get up the next day? If we have a purpose and a meaning to the life, we can add, senior citizens can add so much in this life that it becomes, instead of becoming a burden, it becomes a asset. The senior citizens become an asset because they possess rare knowledge of different generations, technologies, over time. So how much influence they can have over, how much wisdom they possess that they can share with others. So, and how much productive their contributions will be if the wisdom is passed on to the younger generations, how to live their life, for example, and how to manage stress, how situations. So, Ilchi has divided his 120 years in two parts. The first part is your first 60 years, and your second part is your next last 60 years. And Ilchi says that the first 60 years are very easy. It's firmly set in human race that the first 60 years is all about competition, all about winning, all about getting more titles, assets, money, power, titles. And it's a very set road. You know exactly what to do. You know that you have to, you focus on completing your education, you do well professionally, you get married, you start a family, and you acquire titles and assets, etc. And in short, that it is all about success, he says. And imagine countless multitudes that walk together in this crowd. No one actually pays attention to why they are walking or where the road is leading to. And they just keep walking because they assume that since everyone is doing the same thing, I think it's the way that it should be done. And while walking, they make a decent living for themselves, but the living that they make, a lot of times people in their 40s or 50s, they think that it's a battlefield and you have to win. If you don't win, you die. And when you do the hard work and it helps you in the contribution in your growth and your development, it also helps you gain success over a period of time, and it keeps you really stuck in the paradigm of competition. And all you know in the first 60 years, all you know is how to win. And Ilchi says that once your mind is conditioned like that, it becomes very hard for you to, get into your next 60 years. Because eventually, as you grow older, you lose your titles, you lose your, physical strength to keep working hard for 20 hours a day or something like that. And he says, another take that he has is when people win, someone is going to lose. Not everyone will win. And when you achieve something, you will have to compete with others in Prapanchik world. And when you do, then someone else will lose. And therefore, the small sect of people, who call themselves a winner, or the larger sect of people who call themselves, or rather they think of themselves as a loser, the clear segmentation happens. And when you consider this thing that, someone else is a winner and I'm a loser, or, vice versa, there is no peace inside anyone's head. Because one who's winning eventually, and this is Ilchi's take, so one who is winning eventually thinks, if they're not clear in the head, they think that everything is just, it doesn't have a meaning to it. And it doesn't matter if you have money, if you have power, if you have prestige, all of this, they start to question. And the losing mindset, the people who think of themselves as a loser, will anyway take it in a way that, I'm not good enough for the society. I can't do this. I don't have much money. So at the end of the day, if you're not clear in your own head, you basically end up thinking that what you're doing is meaningless. And there comes the second 60 of your life, where after retirement, there is no clear path of what you can do or what you should do. You have to define yourself. You have to define it for yourself. And when you say that you don't have a playbook or you don't have a manual for the second 60 of your life, it becomes pretty hard, because then no one is going to tell you what to do. Everyone will look up to you for the advice. And when you don't, and there he says that you have to add value to your life, because the life of purpose is the life worth living. And as you grow older, all your assets, all your titles, all your success starts to fade away. It may not fade away if, for example, if you are holding a very prestigious, let's say, rank in army. It won't fade away. But the meaning to it, like you going to your office, you planning for something, you taking a lead in something, eventually it will start to fade away. And that's where you have to question that what's the humanity's life is all about, where humanity is heading, because you are part of it. And it says that clearly, I felt that it means the first 60 of your life has a meaning. You know exactly what you have to do. But when it comes to second 60, where now life after retirement, it's for each one of us to figure out what to do. And this hasn't really changed a lot. It wasn't a problem when, in 1880s in Germany, when the lifespan was around 60, 65, it was not a very big problem, because you retire at 56. The average lifespan is 50 or 60. But because technically you don't have a lot of, let's say, years to, left to live. But when I talk about current age, when I talk about, our lives being supported by technology, medicines, dhyan, it's really a problem, because now you again have to survive 20 to 40 years, depending on, how much you decide to live. And just imagine if 20% of the entire world, 20 or 40% of the entire world have to live for another 20 to 30 years without any purpose, without any goal or aim to go towards. I think it becomes a lot of burden to the self-conscious, to the conscience of the self, and to the society. So the road, Ilchi mentions that the road ahead is actually very unclear. So he suggests that instead of competition in the first half of your life, he suggests completion in the second half of the life. Ilchi says that completion is just the value that you should pursue after your retirement. So there he mentions that, we all have the same question. We all ask, who am I? What am I doing here? And the question itself directs you to finding one of the purpose in achieving that you have to achieve in your life. Because the completion isn't about the visibility, in the world. It's nothing external. It's about world of consciousness, a sense that allows you to feel what is going on inside of you. And it is a feeling of fulfillment, filling our heart with love, joy, compassion, freedom, freedom of people we love. And a life of completion is the one that allows you to be in the moment of your death, to be able to look behind in your years and feel content that whatever you were supposed to do, you did. And imagine if you don't live with the life of purpose, if you don't live with the life with the aim and reflecting it back, it just becomes very hard. And that's why Ilchi says that people in their next 60 should focus on completion. And he also mentions about a book that was written by an Australian nurse called Bronnie Ware. She says the title of the book is The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And she says that the most common regrets are, I should have had courage to live the life that is true to me. That's the first regret. The first regret is, again, I will speak, I should have had the courage to live the life that is true to me. Second regret is, I shouldn't have worked so much. I should have known the difference between when to stop and, when to enjoy. I should have had the courage to express my feelings. I should have stayed in contact with my friends and my loved ones. I should have made myself happier. And she says that, and Ilchi mentions, that is his point of view, that if you're, and this is true with a lot of people, that they don't have the courage to live the life that they want to live. They don't know when to stop. They either work too much that they end up losing their families. They should have the courage to express what they are feeling. They should be in touch with their loved ones, surrounded by their loved ones. And they should have made themselves happier instead of, saying yes to everything and everyone and satisfying everyone and anyone and everyone. And that's why he says that this is why you should ask yourself, who am I? What am I doing on this planet? What is my purpose? And Ilchi shares his personal experience where he says that, So Ilchi says that in order to pursue his own questions, he actually went to, I'm sorry, I have to read it. It's, okay. So it's Mount Mawak in near Jeonju in South Korea. So Ilchi goes to this mountain for 21 days to study, he basically do fast for 21 days and he doesn't sleep. And he constantly focuses on these two questions. Who am I and what am I doing here? And on the 21st day, when he finally gets his answers, he decides that he wants to live a life that is fulfilling, that he wants to ensure that his true self is happy at the end of his life. And since then, he constantly asked people that, randomly that he met over the years, and he asked the same questions to everyone. And he says that, to my surprise, no one ever has answered that I want a lot of money, that I want a lot of power, that I want to be rich, that I want to have cars, or, that I want to go some places. And everybody answered that I want to be happy, that I want to be free, that I want to have a lot of joy and compassion in my life, that I want people to love me, and so on. And Ilchi says that it's not necessary for you to learn all these, like have all these things, material things, in order to fulfill your true self. And he says that as we grow old, we need not worry about the titles that we are losing, or, rather we should be shifting our attention from taking to giving. What he means by that is, when you are entering, when you're closing ending your first 60 years after accumulating everything, you physically, there are times when you're not being able to give as much as you could have, 10 years back or 20 years back. So what he says is, instead of focusing your attention on accumulating, you start giving. And to my surprise, he actually says that after retirement, we are not subject to assessments. No one is going to tell us what to do next. And we only have responsibility as elders in our, societies and family. And he says that always satisfy your true self. You know, he says that your true self is not the money that you have. It's not the assets that you have or the titles, or it's not your external body. It's because it will grow old. You will, money is here and, it's not there 1 minute after 1 minute. So you don't really know. You can't really depend on it. You can't really depend on your outer body. You never know what's going to happen next. You can't really focus on you can't really focus on your thoughts, because your thoughts is just the creation. You get 60 to 70,000 thoughts, so it would be tedious. It's not the knowledge or experience that you have, because the knowledge, technology, the knowledge of, it's always in something new to look forward to. This I can back up with an example. People who know, uh, our parents, my parents, they didn't, when phones came out, they had no idea how to use it. And every time a new cell phone comes out, they need a tutorial. So their past experience, their knowledge with technology doesn't really matter, because technologies that they were familiar with does not exist today. So what is it that really is the most important thing to satisfy? So Ilchi says the most important thing to satisfy is your true self. And you can call it as soul. He specifically mentions that you can call it whatever you want depending on your beliefs and your religion. You can call it your soul, you can call it your true self, your real self, your ethnic self, your higher self, and so on and so forth. And he said that the soul is not a theoretical concept. Uh, it's just the energy and the feeling, that it can, and that you cannot really destroy, you cannot really change. The soul cannot be satisfied by money, by power, worldly success, or anything, but only by compassion, joy, love. That's all. And when Ilchi looks back, he said that all the driving force that he had to achieve, all his goals has been driven by by only one purpose, that he has to satisfy his true self. After the meditation and the 21-day fasting that he did, all the things that he achieved after that, they were all driven by his true self, not his material self. And in true self, no one can really, your true self, no one can really find for you. Your true self is not something that I can define for you or you can define for someone else. Your true self is not something that you can just simply, say that, okay, I'll figure it out tomorrow. A lot of times, yes, we do give power to someone else to define us, but at the end of the day, it's not really true, because what they are saying, from where the titles and the definitions of you is coming from somebody else's experience or somebody else's, I would say, mindset. Because your experiences, your past life has been your personal experience, which is unique to you. And no one else can define it for you but you. So Ilchi says that you really don't have to depend on others to find what your true self is. Rather, you have to go inwards to understand what your true self really is, because you possess all the knowledge you need to define it. And this is my personal take. I think meditation definitely helps you get there faster. And he says that this is how you do your self-discovery. But then he says that self-discovery is really not complete. Self-discovery has to follow by action. In the book, he actually mentions that in if self-discovery is the first path, then the second path is growing and realizing the true self that we have discovered for ourselves. And Ilchi defines self-discovery as self-realization, as living the life you truly want. Or in his exact words, it is living the life that your true self really wants. And that's where he says that the growth and the completion is what your true self really wants. In the last episode, I quoted one of the quotes from his books where he said that the death is not the end of your life. Death is the completion of your life. So he said that the first half of our life, we have lived in learning, possessing stuff, accumulating, assets, money, power. And the second half of our life should be with the sharing, sharing and giving. He says that it is not true that people who have a lot of money can help. He says that doesn't matter if you don't have money. You can help people with your wisdom, with your knowledge that you possess. If you have, if you have tried something and you failed, you have that precious knowledge. And people who are trying the same thing, you can help them with your experience so that they don't make the same mistake that you did. This is just an example, but he said that the more you give in your second half of your life, the more satisfaction you will get towards the completion of your life. And there he says that if you don't have money, share your experience. If you share your experience, share your knowledge, share your wisdom. And your personal life's experience should not be limited to your old self. It should be, expanded to a new self where it doesn't matter how much you give to whom. It's always helping and never asks for anything. And he says that the major difference between your first 60 years and your second 60 years is the main difference between success and completion. He says that in completion, competition is not necessary to pursue your goals. This is the main difference between your first half and your second half. He says that the first half and second half are driven by success and completion. In completion, in success, you definitely need competition, but in completion, there is no competition. Your life's purpose is not compared to anyone else's life purpose. It's very unique to you. Your inner values of completion, however, is infinite based on your potential. It never grows smaller. The satisfaction will definitely help you grow into your big self and help you with the life of your purpose. And with that, I would like to give you an exercise. And if you want to see the first part of the video, I will mention that in the description. In the second half of the video, let's all sit, with a piece of paper. Let's meditate for some time and let's focus on who are you and what do you really want? This is the first task. The second task is to understand, to see the life in terms of success and completion. As Ilchi says, success is competition driven. Completeness is competition free. So it doesn't matter if you are 30-year-old or 60-year-old or a 90-year-old who is watching this video. You really, really have to focus on completion. I personally, after reading this book and meditation, I can say that I would rather choose to be driven by my true self than, succumbing to, a short-term success. Because I know that in the longer run, when I'm at the last phase of my own life, I don't want to be the person who would regret saying, I wish I've done that, or I wished I've, done that way. So with that, I would like to end my video. and today's session. And thank you so much for everyone who has stayed. And we look forward to meeting you next week, which is Thursday, same time at 6:30. And for next week, we will actually discuss, we'll go more in detail about, on how do you take care of your second half? What is your true self, in depth? What is depth? What are the types of levels of energies that you have in your body? And how you can match those energies to your higher self, which is your soul. And how will you be able to, align everything in one place and then drive your life? So I look forward to hosting you next week. And thank you so much for coming in. Namaskar.